The economic business cycle is clearly entering contraction as growth slows and real GDP declines. Also, declining M2 growth is a leading sign that inflation may begin to ease, and the bond market appears to be pricing in recession, which in turn may mean future rate cuts by the Federal Reserve. But don't hold your breath just yet. With the 10-year bond moving from 0.5% to over 3% in 2 years, that's a six-bagger, and that's one of the biggest moves in my lifetime. So the question is, are bond rates ready to fall? If so, is it time to look at TLT once again? Well, as they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I say a chart is worth 1,000 pictures. So, if you don't want to become crispy toast, follow me to the charts. And today we're going to take a look at one chart, and it's the iShares 20 plus year Treasury Bond ETF, and the symbol is TLT. For disclosure purposes, I do not hold any shares of TLT at this time. Now, as a refresher, we looked at TLT, at least a year ago. And if you remember, TLT essentially moves in the opposite direction of the bond yield. So with bond yields up, TLT is down. And if bond yields move down, then TLT moves up. So right now, as you can see, we're pretty well squished at this point at 112.96. If you go back here to 2003 all the way through to the current time, you have a pretty good move all the way up there. So I would have expected TLT to maybe come down here into the 130 range on its way down, but it didn't. It bypassed that. So is it oversold? Well, we'll see. Let's move into the oscillators. Volume is showing us quite a bit. Very heavy volume increasing on the way up here as TLT heads on the way down. But we have rolled over here and the volume is starting to fall. That's a good sign. So keep watching that. But here, the MACD is basically my main oscillator. And as I've said, and as I talked about a year ago, with the fast line moving on down here, my trigger point is when the fast line crosses through the red line or the slow line. That's my trigger. And if you go back and look at each of these points where the fast line has crossed through the slow line, either on the way up or on the way down, you'd have a good idea where TLT was going. Now, we have a pretty good separation at that point there in the slow line to the fast line here, so I think there's still some volatility. However, we are so far below the zero line, you go back 20 years and you don't see anything as negative. So we're extremely negative. Now, that's not to say that it can continue to go down, but I'm thinking that the probability is that we're going to start bottoming and basing here soon enough. We're going to go perhaps sideways trading. It's not quite ready to move up because I do want to see that fast line cross through the slow line, and when it does, then it will likely be on its way up. But for now, I think we're going to have a lot of sideways trading and some volatility, but don't get too concerned about that yet. Moving down here into the histogram, you can see we've had two dunks, one there and then the second one here. Both of those are very steeply down and very negative, but they will improve. This one improved just after a couple of months down. We are already a couple, 3 months down here, and it looks like we're just starting to contract back on up. Now, we do have a ways to go before we get to that zero line, but it might be worth the wait, especially at these levels down here. Here into the price rate of change, nice bottoming and basing. It's taken a while, but you can see this sawtoothing. We actually climbed up above that slow line. We then crisscrossed again back on the way down, so we're below. But don't take that too much as a negative sign. I think we're just doing some sawtoothing down here at the bottom. Moving down here into the RSI, very, very steeply negative compared to anywhere else on the chart. So I think it's going to start improving here. It may take a few months, but I think that's the way it's moving. Down here into the stochastics. Now this is something that I want to take a look at in more detail. Going back here, 2017, that move there, we went on up and then we came on back down here in late 2018. We have a similar circumstance here in, say, early 2021. We then went on our way up and on our way down, and we're hitting the second move right here. So take a look at this on the stochastics and then move on up to the price chart, and I think you'll see some similarities. Well, this was the bottom point, that was the buy point. So I'm not saying that this is the buy point, but I'm saying that perhaps the probabilities are leaning in that direction. Moving down here into the Williams, you can see pretty much the same thing. We had that double bottom here and here, as we have it here and here, and then in the mid move we went up to that point there, and then this mid move we went up to that point here. So a lot of similarities. Take a look at your chart and compare those two time frames with all of the oscillators as well as the price chart. Moving back up here to the price chart, and one last look, we'll look at this bottom there, 2017, and then again here, late 2018, this bottom here in early 2021, and then this bottom here once again in mid 2022. So is this the buy point? This certainly was back in 2018, and again I think the probability is leaning that way. So if you're interested in TLT, watch that MAC for the fast line to cross through that slow line, and that would be a buy trigger. Now there's no guarantees, none whatsoever, but in my book that's what the probabilities are. And if you hold TLT now, I think the probabilities are that you should continue to hold. And for today, that's ChewDog Charts. Thank you.